Made on Zencaster.
Hello and welcome to Fit for My Age, a series of conversations between Abeceda and people who think outside the box about health and well-being, with the aim of helping everyone live a healthier, happier life. I'm your host, Michael Millward, the Managing Director of Abeceda. Today, I am joined by Pete Marroni, who is the founder and Managing Director of a company that provides electromagnetic pulse therapy. Pete is based in Lancaster in the northwest of England. It is a place that I have visited, but it is on the other side of the Pennines to where I am in Yorkshire. So whenever I cross the Pennines, I always make sure before I depart that I have my return travel organised, and I do that with the Ultimate Travel Club. Because at the Ultimate Travel Club, I can access trade prices on flights, hotels, trains, all sorts of travel-related purchases. There is a link in the description which will give you a discount on membership of the Ultimate Travel Club so that you can also travel at trade prices. Now that I have paid some bills, it is time to meet Pete Marroni. Hello, Pete.
Hi, Michael. Good to speak with you today. Thanks for having me on.
I know you're very busy and you've got places all over the country that provide this therapy. So could we start off with understanding a little bit about how you came to be interested in electromagnetic pulse therapy and your career to date, please?
Yes, as you said at the start, I founded PEMF and I co-founded a hydration company called Optimal Hydration. Back in 2020, an interesting year, and I decided to end my 30-year career, which actually began in engineering, morphed into management consultancy and automotive management consultancy, where I was traveling the world, all over the world, Asia, the Africas, the Americas, Europe. Founding PEMF was just something that I had to do. We supply energy. I was somebody for getting on 30 years, was really struggling with health, with my wellness, with my energy, cognitive and physical. I lost it. I describe it as death by 1,000 cuts over a 30-year period dealing with chronic health issues. So I held quite big jobs. That was always a battle to hold them down. And in spite of that, we make do. Willpower is an amazing thing. Gets you a long way.
It's amazing how adaptable we can be, isn't it, when we're faced with a health challenge?
It is.
Sometimes it's easier to adapt to it than it is to actually find out what it is and get it dealt with.
It is, and that was my experience for sure. And I think because it's very gradual, Michael, you don't initially, you notice things are wrong, but then you push through because you've got stuff to do. So, and also you seek the advice of experts, and I certainly did that, and I followed lots of advice. I had lots of surgeries, and it was lots of chronic issues. It was no one thing. If it was one thing, let's call it inflammation. In my mid-40s, I became very, very sick after struggling for about 30 years. I was told by my doctors, quote, it was kind of bad luck what I had. But I was really struggling at this point. I was consultancy. I was actually meant to be traveling to South Africa at the time, and I completely lost my voice. I suppose I used my problem-solving skills from engineering, from management consultancy. What is the root cause of the problem? And I dug very deep. I looked at family history. I looked at what I was dealing with. I did lots of reading and still do. I came across PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic fields, as a therapy. And I thought this may be something that could help me, and it did.
In what ways did it help?
PEMF is pure energy. So my company name is PEMF, and within that we have EMF, and that has, I suppose, both good and bad image, because a lot of people, when they think EMFs, they think of the bad ones, sort of electrosmog, dirty electricity, non-native electromagnetic fields. We all use mobile phones, they're wonderful, but you don't particularly want to have one next to your head all day, and the manufacturers tell you that in the manual.
In the small print.
In the small print, in the online small print, but it does say it there. And I think, the WHO says, look, these are probably something that's going to cause you harm, They have them down as a class 2B carcinogen last time I checked. So, these are non-native EMFs. It's electromagnetic energy, but not particularly one that would be good for us. A little bit like microwaves. They emit megahertz, gigahertz, many, many frequencies per second. PEMF devices or machines or systems as we use, because these things are huge, they're the size of a room. These emit similar electromagnetic energy, but it's at the opposite end of the frequency spectrum. Best way to put it, it's the kind that the Earth emits. The Earth gets struck by lightning roughly 7 to 8 million times a day. It's an amazing fact. That's high voltage. It charges the core of the Earth, and that causes the surface of the Earth put out a very low frequency, low intensity electromagnetic field. And in essence, that's what PEMF devices apply to a body, a horse, a human. We used to get this by walking on the ground, and we don't do so much of that anymore. And that's why PEMF can be useful. And that's how it helped me. It just helped my body correct systems that were not working very well by supplying additional circulation and electrical cell voltage, allowing my body to make more energy.
This is a replication. It recreates the energy that comes from the Earth, which sort of puts your body back into alignment.
That's a very good way of describing it, yes.
Hey, I was listening.
You were.
What we're talking about, though, because you say like we get it from the Earth, that's when we go walking barefoot, for example, across our lawn or across a field or across a sandy beach, wherever it is. It's about getting that grounding, and I think that's one of the words that is used to describe it, walking barefoot on a natural surface like mud, soil, grass, sand, those sorts of things. And we don't do that anymore because we all spend far too much on shoes, and that creates something of the barrier.
Yes.
And of course, if you are working in a corporate job, you could be several stories up.
Exactly. I'm sat in a 2-story second floor building now. I'm receiving no meaningful PEMFs. And when we remove living things, mammals, from this electromagnetic energy, which we've evolved with over millions of years, bad things tend to happen.
Most of the world is fixated on, well, if I'm ill, I'll go to the GP and they'll give me a tablet and that will put me right. But very often those tablets, medicines, are dealing with the symptoms rather than the actual root cause. This sounds like something which is much more root cause.
Yeah, and the way you describe the approach, which I don't disagree with, and that was my approach, was go see my medical professional. The problem is the things that I was suffering with, chronic illnesses, were fairly difficult to diagnose. They required lots of exploratory surgeries, such as, when I was 21, I had a laparotomy, which was quite a major surgery, and they didn't find anything because we were dealing with minor levels of inflammation, which in me physiologically caused, fairly major symptoms. Chronic illnesses are notoriously difficult to address, and they tend to accumulate over time. When you were describing very well what PEMF is and how most people approach it, like me, the words of Professor Magda Havas, who is an associate professor at Trent University, but also a world-leading expert in PEMF, how she describes PEMF. PEMF doesn't address, treat, cure any particular condition. What it actually does is support the body's biological repair systems. Small ones do that on a fairly small localized basis, and the larger, more powerful ones, such as the ones that we use in our PEMF studios, do that on a more systemic and a faster basis. But all PEMF does is support the body's biological systems such as circulation, oxygenation, hydration, something called Krebs cycle. This is really GCSE level biology now, how cells produce energy via the mitochondria. It's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And PEMF does that to a very large extent. So it supports a good night's sleep. If you're sleeping, you're repairing. If you have lots of cell voltage and a good night's sleep, you repair much quicker. For me, my body repaired itself. Everybody wanted to know how I'd done this, and this is what founded PEMFit. It was just something I had to do, not something I consciously set out to do years ago in my career.
So it's a real passion project.
It is. It's absolutely a passion project. I expected it to fail because it was not a great time to launch a business either. But people got results, they told their friends, and the business grew organically and quickly.
So how many therapy centres do you have?
So we have 7 centres currently across the UK. We call them studios
Right.
because we're in the wellness sector and we're proud of that. So we don't treat, diagnose, cure anything. Many of our clients are medical professionals. I was in our City of London studio just on Friday. We were presenting to about 30 medical doctors, consultants, nutritional therapists, and they were all clinical in origin, all wanting to know more about PEMF. And we ran, after the presentation, lots of demonstrations. But we have 7 centres in the UK currently and growing. And we also have a national training academy as well, dedicated to training PEMF.
What is the experience when someone decides they're going to go to one of your 7 centres, and details of their locations will be available in the description? But what's the experience like of going for the first time to one of your centres?
That's a really good question because it's a little bit different for different people depending on how they found us. Most people tend to find us from word of mouth. They may have a friend, a colleague, a family member who they've noticed is feeling better, or they've just been told by them, you will benefit from this service. They tend to be more excited, looking forward to it. How can this help me like it's helped my friend? If it's something that's found us in a different way, perhaps online, through a search, through their own research, or possibly being sent by a medical professional, they may be more apprehensive because it's something that they are almost certainly not familiar with. They may wonder why it's not in the local hospital or been recommended already. We completely understand that apprehension. When we work with a client, we spend quite a lot of time understanding what their needs are, listening to them. What are they dealing with? What are they wanting to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
If it is something that we can feel we can support a client with, we're very happy to work with them, very happy to explain how we may be able to support them. If it's not, then we'll be very straight with people and say this is not something for us. But pretty much if you're alive and you don't have a contraindication, PEMF can help. It's very versatile.
What are the contraindications?
Good question. The contraindications, there are some strict ones. So pregnancy would be one.
You wouldn't take anyone who knew that they were pregnant?
No, only because there's not wide studies to show that, that this would not be detrimental. So we decide not to work with people who are pregnant. Pacemakers or other implanted electrical, mechanical, medical devices. So your body, your cells love these pulsed electromagnetic fields. But for instance, your watch, if it was a digital watch or an electronic watch, equally if it was a medical device, if someone had a pacemaker fitted, we would have to decline, unfortunately, them as a client because whilst the energy itself would be probably beneficial for them, the pacemaker is obviously doing an extremely good job if required. So we would not be able to work with them for that. There's a particular form of thyroid disease called Graves' disease, which is an overactive thyroid condition. We don't work with people with overactive thyroid in the Graves' disease manner. Underactive, it works extremely well with, but not Graves' disease. Another one would be transplant surgery. If someone's had organ transplant surgery, quite rightly, they are and should be on immune suppressant medications. PEMF has been shown to improve immune system function, and therefore you do not want to be doing that with a client who has organ transplant surgery because quite rightly you want a suppressed immune system. Mm-hmm. Those are the main ones, Michael. And other than that, covers almost all of them. Depending if someone is dealing with something which is acute, at the time we may ask that they just seek the advice of their consultant or GP to sign them off or make sure that they're stabilised. For instance, if someone had just had a stroke, we want to make sure that they were in a stable condition and that was signed off by their GP or the consultant.
So you're working very much in partnership with conventional doctors, GPs, consultants. You're not something that is separate from other treatments.
More and more so now. We do have a number of our local GPs to certain studios who have seen benefit for their clients. They would say patients, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very happy to send their patients to us. We also work with some consultants. We have a Harley Street clinic who is happy to refer their patients to us for certain conditions because, again, they can't see any bad and they can see the potential good side of this, and they are looking for optimal patient outcomes.
Okay.
So this is something that I think good clinical professionals, and in my opinion, that is all of them. I've only had well-intended treatment myself personally, although for me, mostly these were things that didn't really help. Yes, they addressed the symptoms, but not necessarily the root causes. I feel that all clinicians really are looking for the best outcomes for their patients.
Definitely.
And if they can find anything that can be supportive for what they're also offering, then I find that they're very open to do that, especially if there's a lot of data supporting it. And with PEMF, there is a lot of data supporting it. There's well over 2,000 peer-reviewed studies, lots of white papers.
So I've arrived in the studio. I'm there because I've got chronic pain and I've researched it all online.
Yeah.
And I know that for some people, the majority of people, that this will work for them. Is it the sort of thing where I have to take my clothes off? Do I have to bring special clothes with me? What's the experience like?
You remain fully clothed. You would just remove, if you had a watch or an electrical, let's say an Oura ring or an Apple Watch or a mechanical watch, you would remove those.
What about things like earrings, wedding rings, those sorts of things?
You leave jewellery on.
Right.
So there's no issues whatsoever with that. You remain fully clothed. We hydrate you with our PEMF source water. This has got 72 trace minerals in. So we ask you questions. We give you extremely hydrating water. The client drinks the water. We want to understand what the issues are and if we can address those, as I mentioned earlier. And then we start the session.
Mm-hmm.
The devices that we use, we have a large box which generates the pulsed electromagnetic field. That's like a pulse generating device. Looks something like a big old computer unit, but with lots of controls on the top. Into that, we plug what we call an accessory. And an accessory can be anything from a whole body. These are not mats. These are huge, very thick beds filled with copper, very pure copper, very low oxygen, lots of copper core. And if you remember from science classes, if you pass current through copper,
yeah.
It will generate an electromagnetic field around that copper wire. If you turn that on and off to simulate nature, in other words, very low frequencies, we work between frequencies of 1 and 10 pulses per second, otherwise known as 1 to 10 hertz. That recreates the energy coming out of the ground. It's just in a higher intensity. That's measured in Gauss or Tesla. So you can feel this energy as well. This is to answer the other part of your question. What would you feel? You would actually feel gentle, light, relaxing, pulsing. And you typically feel it in areas where you have lower cell voltage, which in some medical textbooks can be defined as, the definition of disease, because this is tissue which is requiring a higher cell voltage in order to repair, to sequester more cell voltage and generate more electrical energy to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate, to repair that tissue. So you might feel it in areas where you have a problem. And this really fascinates clients because they think, this isn't in my head, I can feel it working. So this is another nice feature, I suppose, of a PEMF session.
How long does it last? How long does the actual session last?
So the client is in and out within the hour. 20 minutes of that is us mainly asking a few questions, but listening to what the client's dealing with, how they're progressing. And 40 minutes of that session, they're also hydrating. 40 minutes of that session is pulsing. And to address most things that people are dealing with, perhaps that's low energy, They may be an elite athlete, they may want more energy, they may be a weekend warrior triathlete wanting better performance or more resilience. There may be somebody dealing with chronic issues. But for almost all clients, we'll want to see them over a number of sessions, anything from, say, 7 sessions to 50 plus sessions in some cases. Those sessions last, as I say, 1 hour in total, but 40 minutes of that is pulsing. Most clients will fall asleep or be in quite a deep meditative brainwave state during that session as well, because the PEMFs sort of guide the nervous system, a bit like when you mentioned when you're in nature, you're more relaxed at the start of the conversation. This has a more profound effect than that. It's a very relaxing feeling. So people typically fall asleep, drift off, wake up at the end of the session feeling refreshed and calm, and then leave with that energy within the cell, within the body.
Is there anything that people need to do after the session, or is it just a case of, right, done that, away we go?
It's a good question. For optimal results, we always ask that they listen to the body. They'll typically be tired later on that evening because we've supplied a large amount of cellular energy. We call it cellular exercise. So because we've applied that to the entire body, and we're roughly, a bag of cells, about 37 trillion cells, salty water and microbes. If you really boil it down, that's what we are. We've applied significant amount of PEMFs to every cell in the body. And these cells are like batteries. They store this energy and they say, right, we've got this energy now, let's get to work. So your show is fit for my age. And as we get older, part of the aging process is we retain lower cell voltage. Our mitochondria produce less ATP. So typically there's more work to be done. Rather than fighting going to sleep, we suggest that people go on the first wind, listen to their body. They hydrate at home, not overly so. But in order for this process to take place, that they really just support the body by resting adequately, by getting sleep, because sleep, of course, is when we repair it, especially in those deep sleep cycle stages. And high-intensity PEMF really supports that as well. The other thing that we ask that they do is really take note, feed it back to us in the subsequent sessions, and then that will guide us to run the frequencies, the intensities, and where and how we apply that energy in those subsequent sessions for optimal client outcomes.
What's been the biggest success that you've experienced with a client going through the PEMF process? What's the sort of the thing that you would hang on your mast, so to speak, of this is how the most brilliant solution can work?
Gosh, it's a hard one. It's a good question, but it's a really hard one to answer, because how do you compare one person's success against another? Knowing, I've run personally several thousand sessions and worked with several hundred clients. It's hard to say how someone dealing with, severely herniated discs, who was awaiting, double discectomy surgery, and but whose surgeon suggested that they continue to have sessions because it was alleviating pain and range of movement was improving, and they were being able to come off pain meds. And following scans, which this particular client I've got in mind had over a 15-year period of six different scans. In the end, there was nothing to operate on because the inflammation of those 4 herniated discs had reduced to nothing to operate on. So we're not claiming that the client did, and the surgeon who did know about the science of PEMF and said, I've never seen this in one of my patients before. We're not making claims, but let's just say that we did support that process in some way. That's something really good. Another thing that PEMF does, and it has FDA approvals to support, is the treatment of anxiety and or mild depression. They do caveat that by saying where drugs are not effective. So a lot of our clients find, real relief from anxiety, depression, stress, and sleep. We work with people that have had non-union femur fractures that we're looking at amputation. So they'd had pinned and plated femurs, major limb, large body in the large.
So the range of successes is quite large then.
PEMF is beneficial for a whole range of things, and people say, well, how can it support all of these? Well, everything is made of cell, or as I say, the rest of us is salty water electrolyte. And the rest of us is microbiome. So if it's made of a cell, it can benefit. And because our equipment is systemic and very powerful, we can get a lot done quickly. It travels freely through all of the body, so we can positively support bone healing. And again, that's another FDA approval. Has to be high intensity PEMF to reach deep into the body and support that bone. But we make no claims, but consultants, scans show interesting results, let's say, and where our clients, medics would call them patients, are finding results that they haven't got before. These are things that they're very pleased with, and if people go on our website, they will see lots of testimonials from people saying this has really helped me. Typically, it's things like fibromyalgia, so chronic, unexplained, otherwise known as idiopathic, no really reason for it, aches and pains over years. This is something I had, together with many other things. Something like that, which is so common now, is life-changing for people. So it's hard to pick one thing, Michael, but I've given you a flavour of the range of different things that people
you have.
can benefit from.
It's all been very interesting. Thank you very much, Pete. I really have. Well, it's fascinating and very interesting, and I really do appreciate your time today.
You too.
Where can people find out more information?
Thank you, and thanks for having us on and allowing us to share the message. So people can probably best find us on our website, which is pemfit.co.uk. That's PEMFIT. Or Instagram, that's at PemfitUK. Or they could find me personally on Instagram at Pete Marroni.
Thank you very much. I am Michael Millward, Managing Director of Abeceda, and I have been having a conversation with Pete Marroni, the founder and Managing Director of PEMFit. You can find out more about both of us by using the links in the description. One of the things that we're very keen on at Fit for My Age is proactive positive aging. That is why we recommend the health tests available from York Test, especially their annual health test. There is a link and a discount code in the description. I'm sure that you will have enjoyed listening to this episode of Fit for My Age as much as Pete and I have enjoyed making it. So please give it a like, download it so you can listen anytime, and remember to tell your friends, your family and work colleagues about it as well. Until the next episode of Fit for My Age, thank you for listening and goodbye.